I love to run polls on X. I don't know whether it my, falling back to my sociology days in high school, or college, I mean, or just exactly what, but I do enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. Well, I ran one today. 64% of those answering this poll said that they intend to buy a Model Y. 64% of the people answering the poll said they're going to buy a Model Y. Only 36% said that a Model Y is not for them. Now, that could mean that they're going to buy a different model of Tesla, like a Cybertruck or a Model 3 or whatever. But maybe they're waiting for the Model 2.5 or the Q or whatever we want to call it. But anyway, I thought that part was interesting, 64%. But then of those, about 30% will buy the launch version. Now, you're going to figure people that are following me on X are probably really avid Tesla fans. These are not the folks that are walking into the showroom just out of a whim, or people that their neighbor just told them they should buy a Model Y, buy a Tesla or buy a Model Y. These are going to be avid fans, but I still thought that was a really high number. If it's anything close to that are going to be buying this launch version, it could be months before we get down to a lower price trim. So anyway, take that into consideration. Take it for what it's worth. I've been asking around, trying to see if there's any information about what has happened in the first couple of days since they announced the new Model Y. Are they selling a bunch of them? Are they getting a lot of orders? I haven't been able to find a thing. Nobody is reporting anything on that, so we'll see what happens. If you know anything, please let me know in the comments below or hit me up on X. By the way, if you're not following me on X, you should be. You realize this, of course. Randy W. Kirk 1. That's how you can find me. But then probably if you type in most of that, you'll get it. Yahoo Finance was the only media that I could find that's even talking about the new Model Y. It's like, what? The number one selling vehicle in the world gets a massive upgrade to where it is probably now going to be considered the very best car you can buy at any price. Think about that for a minute. At any price, and it gets no press. I mean, people are already talking about the Model 3 as being the very best car you can buy at any price. And the only difference really between the two now is going to be, the style, the model. One's just bigger in terms of what it holds and has a hatchback instead of a trunk. Anyway, don't know what to tell you, but maybe the press will eventually start talking about it. We'll see what happens. From Gary Black, we have this. He says, what we will likely hear on the fourth quarter earnings call. Now, pay attention because there will be a test. Or maybe you'd like to add to his list or tell me where you think he's wrong. But anyway, he thinks that that on the call, Model Y Juniper orders are strong in all three regions. Well, I don't know why it's only three regions. I guess I would count at least four regions. So there would be the West, there would be Europe and the countries that are serviced by the Berlin factory. There would be the Chinese market. And then there would be every place else because really I mean, we're talking Australia, New Zealand, we're talking about, Singapore now, we're talking about African nations. I mean, so there's an awful lot so I would say there's four regions, but yes, I think maybe we think of it in terms of three. All right. Anyway, so he thinks that that'll be one of the things on the call is that they will announce that the opening orders, the beginnings of the Model Y launch are going well. Now, maybe they won't give us any numbers. It'd be nice if they did. All right. Number two on his list is he says that the 30 to 35,000 more affordable vehicle launch is on track for the end of the first half. So, okay, I think they'll almost 100% give us an update on the Model Q, whatever we're going to call it, whether or not it's the end of the first half or whether it's sooner, or whether they give us some kind of a launch date. That's a good question. All right, but yeah, I think they'll bring something up about that. Will they give us any hints about what it's going to look like? I'm beginning to believe it will definitely have the cyber look. Something about it will pick up that same branding identity. The next thing on the list would be unsupervised autonomous ride-hailing deployment is on track for Texas and or California by 2025 year end. So the only thing I would change on that list would be, or that idea would be, I think it'd be way before year end. I think that they said it would be also summer. So that would be, September 20th is still 19th, depending on the year, is still summer, but I think it'll be way before year end. And maybe they'll give us an update, or maybe, you know how Elon likes to hint at things. He might say it'll be in 2 weeks, or he might do something different again, which he does commonly. Look, I'm already riding, our people are already riding in cars that are unsupervised, and it's just a matter of a few weeks, or something, some kind of hype like that. That could very easily happen. All right. Cybercab volume production at 2 million units on track for 2026. So I'm not sure this will have any announcement at all. I would be surprised if this has an announcement. I don't think he might talk about Cybercab, but I'm not sure he's going to reconfirm that they think they're going to be running a 2 million run rate, or a 2 million per year in 2026. Don't think that's going to happen. Now, remember, they'll probably be making the Cybercab in all factories. My understanding, and the best that I can guess, is they will start production of Cybercab in this year. So they will be into the ramp by 2026. But I don't think they'll do necessarily 2 million the first year, and I don't think there'll be any announcement. So I'm disagreeing with Gary on this one. FSD on track to achieve 10,000 miles between critical disengagements by the end of 2025. Well, that'll just depend. He just said unsupervised autonomous. He just said robotaxis. Anyway, that's all going to happen. You've heard my theory on that. We will get unsupervised 1 month. I'm saying that's July. Then that would roll out to the major players, the Cooks of the world, and Dirty Tesla, all those guys. They'll get it first for 2 weeks, and then it'll roll out to a larger crowd, and they'll get it for 2 weeks. And maybe there'll be some changes, and there'll be a 0.1 or a 0.2 or whatever. So there'll be like 4 to 6 weeks before the initial unsupervised group gets their update. And then the rest of us, about 6 weeks later, will get our update. And that'll also might be a hardware 4 only. It might be hardware 4 in Cybertruck. Anyway, 3 groups, hardware 4, Cybertruck, and hardware 3, kind of 3 different things. And that might take a couple of months for everybody to get it. After all of that is done, so let's call it August, we'll get the first robotaxis in service. All right, that's the theory. Put it down, bookmark it. We'll see what happens. So Tesla is working on FSD licensing agreements with 1 or more OEMs. Will this happen? I think the only way he mentions licensing, well, he'll be asked. So he will be asked this question. Almost certainly it'll be on the list. So probably he'll have to respond somehow. I think he would be more inclined to answer this if there's actually a deal, or close to a deal. I don't know. We'll see. It's a good one. Federal authority over autonomous driving regulations will be passed by Congress in full year 25. Okay, that could happen, and that could be announced, or that he feels, that there will be legislation that will be passed that will give Congress, that will give the U.S. Regulatory authority over all the states with regard to both unsupervised full self-driving and also robotaxi, ride hail through autonomous driving. Now, that might not overtake local restrictions with regards to cabs. So, for instance, only recognized cabs are allowed to go to, say, LAX or something, or go into the cab stations in LAX. So there may be some things like that that are still going to be regional. But yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's going to happen. Will it be announced? That's another question. All right. Management will still be comfortable with the previous full year 2025 delivery guidance of 20 to 30% year-over-year growth due to Model Y, Juniper, due to cheaper the Model Q, and also FSD coming out. Well, I'm glad Gary included the FSD as a catalyst to sales, okay? Because I think it's going to be a huge catalyst to sales. And of course, my opinion, if you watch this show, is that it will cause all of the factories to have to double up, triple up in order to meet the demand. And okay, Juniper, cheaper FSD advancement, potential loss. Oh, okay. And then that they will mention something about the potential loss of the U.S. EV credit They'll mention something about that. They'll be asked about it. They'll have to respond to the question. And the answer will be that there is at least a chance that the $7,500 will be disappearing. Maybe they'll give us some estimate of when that could happen. I'm saying it's January 1 of next year. I don't bet, but I would put money on that. Okay, this is Randy Kirk. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit notify. Join Patreon. Okay, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this lull. It's time for you guys to get serious. I know you're making money off of things that I'm saying on this show. So $3 a month would not kill you. $5 a month. At $5 a month, you get a free book, right? These books are still valuable. But I know I wrote them. I had lots of help on the second one, The Mission. 3 other writers, people that you know and trust, helped to write the Elon Musk mission. That book is still 70%, 30% of it's already happened. But there's a long list of the moats. There's a long list of marketing approaches that can be taken. There's a long list of things that are still that have not happened yet, that were talked about in that book. There's all kinds of stuff in there that you're going to get a kick out of. Anyway, for $5 a month, $5 a month, if you join, you get an audio version of any of my books that you want. It's true. Well, one of them. At $10, you can have 2. You can have all of them if you want. There's four audiobooks. So if you want all 4, if you're in business for yourself or you know somebody who is, when Friday isn't payday would be something people would really enjoy. And making money out of thin air. I guarantee you, they would really, really like that. Well, when Friday isn't payday was a much bigger seller. Okay, so that's all I got. I would take concern. You may be seeing concerns about farm workers not showing up for work, or construction workers not showing up for work. If you see something like that on X, or you see an article, I don't think it's happening. You know why I don't think it's happening? Because there was only one article today. I mean, really, I searched. There was only one article, another article 3 days ago. And then there was another article the day before that. If there was really a real problem in the farm belt, where the immigrants are picking the crops, if there was really a problem, I saw one headline, 34% or 60% of workers not showing up for construction jobs in Texas. I think it's baloney. I think it's nonsense. There would be hundreds of articles, not 3 over the last 5 days. Anyway, that's my opinion. Let me know. Maybe it's really happening. All right, now this is Randy speaking, and this is a synopsis of what it's going to take to cure inflation. People are like, well, Trump said he'd cure inflation on the first day. Well, no, he never even said that. But these are the steps that are necessary. There's a whole bunch of things that need to be done to do this. It will not happen in a month. It will not happen in a quarter. There'll be trends, and the trends, just the idea that inflation could go down in the future will cause inflation to go down in the future. But here's what it's going to take in order to cure inflation. And by inflation, I'm talking about systemic inflation that has nothing to do with consumer behavior. It has nothing to do with business behavior. It has nothing to do with shortages. It has nothing to do with oversupply. It has nothing to do with recessions or great business economies. It has everything to do with the money supply, all right? And so there's 5 things that the federal government needs to do to get systemic inflation solved. And once you solve systemic inflation, then the little itty bitty bips, ups and downs of the rest of inflation, we'll talk about that in a minute, but those will be little tiny bips, okay, blips, so, they'll be, yeah. Anyway, number 1, cut federal spending. DOGE is going to do that. Elizabeth Warren says she's willing to help Elon with that. I think most of the things that she's talking about are more consumer-facing things, like cutting the price of drugs through, by negotiating with the drug makers. Anyway, but I don't know how much help we'll get from the Democrats about it. Maybe we'll get all the Republicans to help out with the DOGE thing. As has been pointed out by many people, including the All In podcast today, the biggest problem you have is that Republican senators and Republican House members want to bring home the bacon to the local folks, and so they're loath to cut programs or cut anything that might take away, business from their region, from their district, whatever. So That's the problem. But I think there's going to be a lot of progress. That's number one. Number two, balance the federal budget. Yeah, I know. Seems nutty, right? It can be done. They need to do it. It will solve inflation. Solve inflation. Okay. Number three, both of those things will lower treasury yields, which will be a big help in solving inflation. Number four, the Fed will lower the Fed rates, and that'll be another huge help. It will also help to lower the deficit and bring us back into closer to a balanced budget. Number five, reduce the money supply, both M1 and M2, but only in line with hitting 2% inflation goal. Okay, that's the goal. You want to hit the 2% inflation goal. So you moderate the money supply, M1 and M2, you just moderate it a little bit. If you're doing all these other things right, it won't take much. Just take a little. It'll just take, a little bump here and a little bump there. Kind of like when you're playing pinball, just a little. Yeah, you remember pinball, right? Anyway, that's what then the Fed can really do their job and the Treasury can really do their job to moderate and to modify M1 and M2, and then inflation solved. Now, that doesn't mean that when you've got the egg flu or what was called bird flu, you're not going to have the price of eggs go up. It doesn't mean when you have a drought and the beef industry cuts back on the amount of calving that they're doing because they can't they don't have enough water to take care of the herds or enough growth on the ground anyway. For whatever reasons going on with the cattle industry, you've got a situation where the price of beef goes up, the price of eggs goes up. That's not inflation. I hate to tell you, that's not really inflation. That is the vagaries of commerce. Inflation would be, let's say, that human beings, what you need is the anticipation, the expectation of inflation going on into the future. And when you've got a bird flu, you don't expect eggs to go up again next year and the next year. In fact, what you expect is when the bird flu is over, that they'll make plenty of eggs again and the price of eggs will come down. You follow me? Do you get what I'm saying? When they talked about transitory, that's what they were talking about. Okay. So that's not inflation. That's what the public cares about, right? They don't care about those 5 things I just told you about. They don't care about that at all. What they care about is they go to the grocery store and their bill was $100 last time. This time it's $110. They care about that. Okay. That isn't inflation. It could be caused by inflation. It can be the results of what the government's doing because all of that impacts the price of goods. But that is not inflation. That is transitory based on supplies, demands, etc. Now, here are the ways that you can help to take care of some of those transitory issues. These are the big 4. All right. Number 1, by far, leading the pack by a whole bunch, increased productivity. The more widgets of output you get per worker, the less inflation you're going to have. In fact, you could go into deflation. If you go into deflation because of productivity, that's a good thing. If you go into deflation because nobody's buying anything, that's a bad thing. Okay. But if you get deflation because you can buy that big television now for $1,000 and last year was $2,000, that's a good thing. All right. But nothing works better than productivity. Lots of productivity help us on the way, whether it's AI, whether it's robotic cars, whether it's Optimus, whether it's all kinds of other kinds of things that are going to be happening in this automation period that we're going into. That's going to help productivity. Getting public employees into the private sector is going to help productivity. Just reducing the number of public workers. The federal government's going to be doing that in a big way. The state governments need to clean house. They need to invite Javier the other day to come into the state of California and fix our government because we're spending money like there's no tomorrow here. All right, number 2 is to lower the cost of all energy. Oil and natural gas impact plastics, they impact pharmaceuticals, fertilizer, all kinds of other products. All those things everything that's made out of metal is going to have some oil used in the production of it. I can go down the list. Natural gas is used in manufacturing, okay, as is oil. So if you can get it permeates everything that you buy. And even the things, even services, right? Because transportation, you need transportation involved in services. You need to heat the building that the people are working in. You need to turn the lights on. You get it. Okay, we need to get the price of oil down, get the price of gas down. Nuclear is going to help a ton. Solar with batteries help a ton. All of this, we can get the price of energy down. It's going to be massive, and it helps to create the opportunity for a country to grow. Big, again, if you haven't watched the All In podcast this month, or this week rather, it's a really good one to watch. And they talk a lot about the future of energy production and why it's critical that this is the top of the list in DC right now. I mean, one of the top 3 or 4 things. Number 3, lower the interest rates. It ripples through the entire economy. Obviously, that's an easy one to understand. If you pay 6% for your car loan instead of 8%, it's going to make a big difference. If you pay 3% for a mortgage instead of 5%, it makes a big difference. Okay, you get that one. And then the last one's obvious, just as obvious, lower taxes for corporations and individuals. That's going to reduce the amount the consumer is paying, out of his pocket every month. And when that happens, then they feel like they're doing better. Okay, so these are the 4 things that reduce the perception by the consumer that they have less during inflation, as opposed to having more during periods when there isn't a lot of inflation. Now, should we keep inflation at 2%? If you're a Friedman, a person who likes what Milton Friedman said, yeah, you need to keep inflation, up somewhere, 1.5%, 2%. All right. Let's see. We have the last piece of news, really short here. Mr. Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States, has a 6% advantage in his approval rating compared to his disapproval rating. That is 3% higher than he ever achieved in the first term. 3% higher than he ever got in the first term. And who's reporting this? Oh, CNN. There you go. Listen, this morning, well, first of all, let me let you know that coming up at 7:45 is Robert Scoble. You do not want to miss this, okay? He is going to tell you stuff about the future of robotaxi and cybercab that you have never heard about before, okay? Crazy, interesting stuff. We had a great hour together. He is going to be talking about not just robotaxi, but some other stuff, including some interesting political stuff at the end, because, he is connected. Robert Scoble knows like everybody in Silicon Valley, all right? He had one of the very first car rides ever in a Tesla. I'm talking about I think he claims to have the first ride ever in a Tesla. He was at the table where Uber was invented, if you will. He was sitting with the founder of Uber when he was napkinning out the idea for. Anyway, Robert Scoble is super connected, and he has some very interesting things to say about what's happening in the Silicon Valley. All right, and then this morning, Brian Wang and Brian did an amazing job of talking about the new Grok 3, something I know nothing about. The new Grok 3 that's coming like any day now. They've made some announcements with regard to what it can do, how different it is. And then we went from there and talked a lot about the entire, the whole AI thing and where things are going. Fascinating time with Brian this morning. That card will be right there. Meanwhile, you can hit like and subscribe, and of course, notify, so you'll remember it. Tune in for Robert Scoble. Normal programming tomorrow. I have no idea what's going to be. I do know that, the afternoon will be the Monday morning show where we will talk about one of the most amazing weeks for the stock market, for Tesla. Yeah, the Fed. Yeah, I know. Anyway, it'll be tomorrow night show will be great. And then in the morning, I think I'm going to be talking about Optimus tomorrow morning. I have a couple of new ideas on Optimus. So that's probably what's going to happen tomorrow morning. All right, that's all I got right now. It has been great talking to you.